my church, and it was 16 days in June. I just got back a couple weeks ago, and so I was asked to share just a little bit about my trip and what I really took away from it and what we were able to accomplish while we were in Australia. So we began, this whole process began like 6 months ago. My mom and I came up with the idea to make Indian pizzas. And so we took like tandoori chicken and chicken tikka, and we used that as the sauce and made pizzas out of it. Some of you might have tried it, I think. Yeah. And we made other kinds of pizzas too. And we raised all the money. And I'd been on 2 mission trips prior. I've been to Uganda in 2017, and I went to Mexico last year, doing similar stuff. Our church likes to focus on more like a ministry outreach type mission trips as opposed to physical labor. Most of the time. Usually on the longer trips we do more of outreach type ministry. And so the first week we were there, we were in Townsville, Australia, which is in the north. It's on the northeast coast, way up north, kind of by the Great Barrier Reef is where that is. And it took us, 4 flights and like 27 hours of traveling. The flight over to Sydney was like 14 hours. It was forever. But when we got there, we pretty much hit the ground running the first week. We went through a group called YWAM, which stands for Youth with a Mission. They have bases and campuses all over the world, and what they do is they invite usually people who just graduated from high school, entering college. They offer like discipleship training school courses to them, where they go for 6 months and they spend the first 3 learning about ministry, and then the latter 3 doing outreach in the nearby country. It's usually very underdeveloped, like third world countries and stuff. So we were going through them, and they offered a youth adventures program, and that's what we were going through. So the first week we spent in Townsville, Australia. Each day, Monday through Thursday, we had pretty much lectures all day. And what they really emphasized, kind of what Michael was talking about actually, is going back to a foundation. So we learned a lot about setting that foundation for ourselves, more theologically than we went back to Genesis, and we were like breaking down Genesis and answering like a lot of tough questions, like why did God create us and what are we here for, and all of this like foundational structural type stuff, so that we could have an understanding of that, so that when people ask us those questions, we were able to give them that information and really know it for ourselves and believe it for ourselves, rather than be dumbfounded by these people. Because so we did that the first week. We also learned some history of Australia, like the colonization, where did everybody come from, and then we learned about where we would be doing like outreach in the second week. So we had a group of about 35 people, and half of us went to one outreach location and half went to another. And my group went to an island off the coast of Townsville, about 2-hour ferry ride off the east coast. It's called Palm Island, and that's where we would spend the next 7 days. We lived in a church on the floor and showered with a hose, and it was really a unique experience. We all slept in one big room about this big. The church is probably smaller than this building, this shelter. And we all slept on the floor. And so that in and of itself, I mean, already I was just humbled by that experience. Just being able to like step away from like the luxury we have here and just like live in that kind of environment was already humbling. And they do that they were able to set that up for us so that we would just have that experience, which is really amazing. And getting to see all that, like that island and everything, it's really cool. So basically a little bit of history about Palm Island is it was it's just a very small island. Like, it's about 3,000 people probably live on that island, and it began as a prison island, where so when the whites came over to Australia, they kicked all the blacks out. Is basically what they did, and they sent them over to this island called Palm Island, and there were like the white police officers. They lived in the main street there, and it's all nice. It's called Mango Avenue, and then the rest were basically treated like prisoners and slaves, and just sent there so that the white people could take care of the mainland. And so, I mean, as time went on, that was probably early 1900s, and they were eventually liberated from that. And so what you have there now is there are a lot of Aboriginal people that live there. There's some white people that live there. There's a lot of missionaries that live there. And basically, what the government is trying to do is compensate for their struggles. And what I was told, it was really eye-opening to me, is that they were just given, they're kind of just given everything. Like, they don't, you go there, you wouldn't think they have a lot of money at all. It's very underdeveloped. But they're really living off government subsidies for the most part. And what I then learned is that, or what our guide was telling us, the problem with that is that they don't have a need for God. They have everything they need. They have food whenever they need it. Even though they're not really living in luxury, they're fine. They're not really struggling. And that was just really eye-opening to me, and it really posed like a whole new battle for our group, because they don't even see a reason for God. Like, they don't think that it's even, why would they even need one, is what they're kind of living in. And so that was kind of our challenge, living it. So part of our group spent time at a elementary school, a Catholic elementary school, and they would go there every morning and work with the kids and help out the teachers. I was not one of them. The other half of our group would stay behind at the church. We cleaned up, like, the church, some of that stuff, and I personally, me and two other people, they have a nursing home, and we walked down to the nursing home every day and just played music for them. I brought my guitar and sang songs to them and prayed over them. And just what our head pastor at our church always tells us is ministry is relationships, and that's something you really get to put into effect when you go on these trips and stuff. It's really no more than just making like a relationship with someone and taking the time to talk to them and be their friend, really, and just tell them about your perspective and they can share theirs. And that was something that we were really that's what we were really doing, is sharing like our perspective and making relationships. And a big thing that we did was spend time they have a YMCA. It's basically a YMCA. It's called the PCYC. It's this big, it's basically this big gymnasium, and that's where all the kids go to hang out. It's covered in graffiti. Yeah, not the nice words everywhere. It's primarily because the youth there they don't really have any ambition because of like what I said before about the government subsidies and they don't really have a reason to go out and find a job and make money. And their philosophy is, why should I do it when a white man is going to do it better? And that's something I heard there a couple times. And so what you have is a lot of like gangster youth. If that's for lack of a better word. There's a lot of it's a very defiant youth is what's going on over there, and one that's very closed-minded. And so that was the battle we were faced with. So every night we would go to that gym, the PCYC, and just play volleyball, basketball, all these games with these kids, and just talk to them and see what they're going through. And that's how we spent about 5 or 6 days on Palm Island. It was a very, very humbling experience, and it was a very interesting place. I never even heard that place existed. I'm sure none of you have heard of that place either. And it's yeah, it's just crazy to think that some of those places are really out there like that, and getting to visit it was just a really awesome experience. And another thing that we really learned about was the value of prayer. The people at the YWAM base really emphasize prayer a whole lot. Like, I remember specifically one time, it was Sunday, and our group, we were living in a church, and it was still used for church, so we had to tear down, and we had to set up for church. And half our group was going to stay at that church, and half was going to go to a Catholic church down the road. And instead of just picking which one you wanted to go to, they were like, no, we need to pray about this. And they split us up, and we prayed about it, and we came back. And if you didn't have an answer, they sent us back to pray about it again. And I mean, that was the mentality they had the whole time. If you didn't get an answer from God, we'll pray about it again. Really seek God's voice. And that's what we learned the first week, too, was we really delved into spiritual warfare and learning all about hearing God's voice and all that kind of good stuff. And it was really awesome. I really took away a lot from it, and I learned a lot about prayer and the value of prayer from those experiences. And so what I want to share with you is also that same value of prayer. It's very important. Hearing God's voice is something that is very, I guess, hard to do. It's something you have to really, really want and really try to do. And I think a lot of people give up way too easy. That's what we learned, or way too quickly. So yeah, it was a very awesome experience, and I hope that what we did left a good mark on Palm Island and the people there. So thank you all for having me share, and thank you all. Yes, I think so. It wasn't that wasn't what we were like set our part of the like syllabus or whatever. That's not what we were doing that week. But we did encounter people that we talked to on the street, and if we came across people, we would pray over them. I think a few people did something like that because we got a lot of time to walk around the city, and so we made sure to capitalize on that opportunity. Yeah, does anybody else have any other questions?
Is there any difference in the language, or
They spoke English in Australia and Palm Island. They all spoke English. They do have their own slang, a lot of their own slang, but yeah, English. Unfortunately, no. I did bring back a lot of new terms that I didn't know before, which were really.
How much is the McDonald's meal?
Like they call McDonald's, they call it Macca's. That's the slang around, and it's very much better. It's much better. It's really good. They put barbecue sauce on everything. Yeah.
did you eat any wild meat, like kangaroo meat or something like that?
Wombat.
I did not. I had kangaroo jerky. It wasn't good at all. It wasn't good. I didn't even see a kangaroo, actually. The other half of our group did. They went to a different city. They got to see kangaroos, but they went to. Have any of you heard of Cairns?
Yeah.
That's where Nemo's from.
Yeah. And then Nemo.
That's northeast. It's right on the tip of the north. Cairns, Australia.
Yeah.
That's where the Great Barrier Reef is. That's where our other group went. There were kangaroos in the road. Apparently, we didn't get to see any because Townsville's a big city, and Palm Island didn't have anything except there were wild horses. So actually, me and a couple of my friends and a couple pastors, we took a ferry. We had like 3 or 4 or 5 hours before our flight left back to Sydney, and so we said, there's a island off the coast of Townsville. It's called Magnetic Island, and my pastor was like, guys, we have to go to Magnetic Island. So we bought our ferry tickets all the way over there, and we hiked around this island for probably 2 hours before we had to leave. But we got to see koalas and wallabies, but no kangaroos. So
The mini game.
that was, and it didn't eat any, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You said you hit the bell running. Was there no jet lag?
There was bad jet lag. I personally, I was very tired when we got off the plane. We got off the plane on Sunday, June maybe.
You
9th?
missed a day?
Yeah, we time traveled. Technically, we skipped June 8th because we followed the sun or whatever. Yeah, so we skipped June 8th, and then we lived June 23rd forever. It seemed like, because it was like 36 hours. Because we left Sydney, Australia,
Sunday.
June 23rd at like 8 in the morning, and then we landed in Los Angeles after a 14-hour flight at 10 in the morning.
Yeah, the same day.
So that yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys have any time to take it off?
We did a little bit, but there were sharks, so we couldn't go in the water. It wouldn't let us go past ankle deep, which I thought was really stupid. I was really upset. I wanted to go swimming. And then I was out there ankle deep in the water, and I see this guy who just picks up a shark with his hand, and he's like right on the shore, and he's dangling around, and that's when I backed up. I went back to the shore after that one.
How big was it?
It was, I think, it was a baby. It was probably like this big. I don't know what that shark is called. Tiger shark or something.
You go
I wouldn't know it was a hammerhead. It was a hammerhead. A little hammerhead. Yeah, it was cool.
What
I didn't
about
see.
Opera House?
Oh yeah, we went, and we had the last couple of days to hang out in Sydney. 2 days in Sydney. And it was their winter there. But up north, where we were in Townsville, it's like 70 degrees. But when we got down south to Sydney, it was late 50, like 50 degrees, 60 degrees, and rainy and cold. But we got to see the Opera House, the Harbor Bridge. I walked on the Harbor Bridge, and yeah, it's a very pretty city, Sydney. And, yeah. It's a whole lot of Asian people there as well. A lot. I think it's a whole lot of Asian people there, in case you were wondering. And I think Indian people too. There's a lot of Indians in Australia, is that true? Okay.
Did you get Indian food?
Yeah.
I passed a lot of Indian restaurants, but I didn't eat any.
What else?
So, yeah.
What about
No, we didn't go west of Sydney at all. That was it. Yeah. We really didn't have a lot of time to kind of explore. I guess we had time in Sydney, but they were really working us the first week with the lectures. I mean, it was 8 to 12 we had lectures. Sometimes we would go over that, and then we had 2 to 5 lectures in the evening. So I was a bit worn out with the jet lag and all. Yeah. It took a while for me to adjust back too. For the first week, I couldn't sleep till like 8 in the morning, and I was waking up at like 2 in the afternoon, and it was ridiculous. So I think I'm bouncing back now. Hopefully, trying.